And a very happy Thursday to you at 12:07 in the West. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wags in Culver City.
John, let's play a game. Rob Bonta, the Attorney General for the state of California, has been doing the rounds in local LA TV to talk about rental price gouging. I want to play you, Rob Bonta, with a sit-down interview with Alex Michelson, and I want you to estimate how long it takes before we get to a bucket full of cliches.
I'm guessing right out of the gate.
Let's hear what Rob Bonta said to Alex Michelson about price gouging in the L.A. rental market in the wake of the wildfires.
Landlords are jacking up rent by as much as 124%, according to a report by the New York Post. Right now, by law, building and property owners cannot raise the price of rent by more than 10% after Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency. With us now is the Attorney General of California, Rob Bonta. Mr. Attorney General, welcome back to the show.
Good evening. Thanks for having me, Alex.
What are you seeing in terms of price
gouging? Gets his name wrong right out of the gate.
Good evening. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Close enough.
Price gouging right now.
Okay, we're starting the clock. Are you ready?
All right. Give me my 60 minutes tick-tock, tick-tock.
Unfortunately, during this moment when many families in LA have been so severely impacted by the devastating wildfires and are reeling from hopefully the worst thing that'll ever happen in their life, that nothing will ever happen that's worse, but they're reeling and they're in pain. We're seeing the best in people, some folks helping.
Here we go. Are you ready? It took 20 seconds.
We're seeing the best in people, some folks helping and lifting them up and leaning in and wrapping their arms around them. And unfortunately, we're seeing...
Do you think he even knows he's doing this?
He seems to be oblivious to how much of a joke he is.
Every type of leadership is about meeting the moment and rising to the occasion. And this is what's required. And so we're stepping up and getting it done.
Because if you know you're throwing out nothing but meaningless cliches and platitudes everywhere you go, then you have the worst political instincts I've ever seen.
What about the people who work for him? Because he has an entire department at the California Department of Justice that does nothing but communications. How can you be a speechwriter? How can you be a press person for him, an advance person for him, and not say something to him about these embarrassing statements?
I guarantee no one ever corrected him on this.
In Topanga.
All right, let's hear what Bonta has to say after the cliches.
Not some of the best in people. We're seeing folks who are trying to take advantage of the situation, exploit the vulnerability, prey on these individuals who've been displaced, who are looking for a home, who are desperate. There's a surge in demand because of the natural disaster, and they're taking advantage of that and violating the law in the process. As you mentioned, there's a Penal Code Section 396 in the state of California that prohibits any increases of prices on certain goods and services after the declaration of emergency of more than 10% than those prices were before the declaration of emergency. So anything that's more than 10%, certainly anything over 100% is in violation of the law. It's a crime, punishable by a year in jail, $10,000.
We don't put people in jail for misdemeanors.
We don't put people in jail for violent crime.
I don't think any landlords are going to jail over this. And what's going on might be price gouging. It might also be bidding wars. It's kind of a legal gray area.
In jail, $10,000 criminal penalties. We have current investigations, multiple investigations into criminal price gouging in L.A. With victims who were also victims from the L.A. fires. And we're also going to be doing some notices to folks for whom we have evidence that they are violating the law, indicating our knowledge of them, their conduct, and demanding that they cease and desist immediately.
They're going after you.
He's going to run for governor on the platform of, I'm the guy who put Mr. Furley in prison.
So Alex then asks, when are we going to see arrests in these crimes that you're alleging?
So how quickly are we going to be seeing potential criminal charges in this?
We're hoping soon. We're in the process of developing our cases. We're far along on a number of them. Of course, the standards for criminal conduct are high.
You don't say.
This is California. We're familiar with your work.
based on the standards in our criminal justice system and our criminal procedure. And we always dot the I's, cross the T's.
Oh, there's another cliche.
We're back to the cliches.
Always dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure that when we charge a case, we got him dead.
He hasn't actually declared he's running for governor yet, right?
I don't believe that he has.
He shouldn't.
Always dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure that when we charge a case, we got him dead to rights. We're doing that here.
Another cliche.
He can't stop. He's addicted.
We got him dead to rights. We're doing that here. It takes a little bit of time to track down the information from a source that's admissible in court, to get the testimony from the victims, and to lock down all the facts in a way that we can present to a court of law and secure the conviction. But we're doing that. We're far down the road on a number of different cases. So you could see something in days, at the earliest, weeks at the most. We'll be having a press conference tomorrow in L.A. Where I'll be to talk about some of our ongoing progress. But we want the message to be clear. These are victims. These are people who are reeling and in pain. These are our fellow Californians. They deserve us. Deserve that we lift them up, not take advantage.
Oh, God.
And he's back to the cliches.
Deserve that we lift them up, not take advantage of them. Do not price gouge. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should, and it is illegal. You will be held accountable, and you will be punished if you do.
Okay. I'm not a lawyer. Randy's not a lawyer, but I think you and I can figure this out in about 60 seconds. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. If there is a law that says that you cannot price gouge more than 10% after a state of emergency has been declared, then wouldn't it be reasonable that you would then just go to Zillow and go to all of the areas where rental properties are advertised? You look at what the property was going for the day before the fire, and you look at what the property was going for after the fire. And if the advertised rate for the property is more than 10% higher, then bingo, you have someone who violated the law.
That's how it could work.
Wouldn't you do that if you were him?
Well, somebody else already did. There's a Google sheet that's being shared on social media from a real estate agent who is tracking exactly that, and they've looked at 800 properties so far.
Okay, so it's as simple as that. But here's what this idiot is going to do. By grandstanding and going on all of these programs with his buckets full of cliches, what he's going to do is he is going to, by making it seem more complicated than that, if you list a property for rent after the fires had started, but the property was not for rent before, and someone wants it, as a negotiation technique, they can threaten to turn you in for price gouging if they feel that you're advertising it for a number that's too high.
And that's just what Bonta would do. You got to remember, as you're hearing many elected officials talk about all this price gouging that's going on in the rental market, what did Ulysses and Hugo do at the LA City Council? They're proposing yet another COVID-style eviction moratorium and a rent freeze.
And Bonta is weaponizing the state of emergency as a negotiation technique.
Alex asked Rob Bonta, how do you know if you've been a victim of price gouging?
So in terms of how does somebody know that they're a victim? And if they are a victim, how do they reach out to you?
You know, we've been having so much outreach, and people don't necessarily know how to get to our office. So I'll tell you how. You go to oag.ca.gov/report and send us the message about your experience. Send us documents that indicate the price that you were told is the cost of the housing. If you are able, send us the price before the declaration of emergency on January 7th.
Wait, why does the victim have to do all the legwork?
Yeah, he wants the person whose home just burned down to somehow find an internet connection and do all of his work for him.
So we can do a side-by-side, and it can be clear that the increase is...
Someone already did this on a Google sheet.
Does he not have the Google?
So we can do a side-by-side, and it can be clear that the increase is over 10%. But you don't have to do all of that. That's just helpful if you can. People know they're victims when they see these prices that are sky-high and way out of whack. And they know...
Way out of whack?
Okay, again, that's a very subjective term. How often do you pay the advertised price for a car or a house? It's, I guess, when the market is super hot, people do, and sometimes there's bidding wars. But typically what you do is you start with the advertised price, and then the negotiation starts. I'm telling you, that is going to be the takeaway of what he's doing. If you're a realtor and you are representing the seller, watch out, because they're going to come after you alleging price gouging if they think what you're asking for is high.
People know they're victims when they see these prices that are sky high and way out of whack, and they know something is wrong. They don't have to do the mathematical formula to determine the 10% increase. But if you are concerned and you're worried that you're a victim of price gouging, reach out to us. We can take it from there. And that oag.ca.gov/report website is the best place to go to inform us about your experience.
There are going to be a lot of tattlers going through Zillow this weekend.
Oh, this is going to be a disaster.
I'm sure this one will be full of cliches, so we'll play it. Rob Bonta, what is your message to Californians?
And as we wrap things up, the bottom line message to the people of California tonight.
We support you.
Oh, boy.
He's starting.
We support you. We see you. We value you.
Oh, God. I don't think Alex did it on purpose. But I would love to believe that Alex knew that if he asked him this question, he was going to say absolutely nothing.
Can you imagine this guy giving a graduation speech?
Will do and are doing everything in our power to help you. This is a time for all Californians to rise up in support of the victims, to lean in.
He loves that leaning in.
He leans in so much he fell over.
That the feeling of generosity that makes you want to help, that makes you want to give to a charity that's helping the victims, act on it. That's what we need. When people are facing some of the worst circumstances in the worst of times, it's time to bring out the best in people. And
never heard that one before.
Not once.
And let's not cast blame. Let's not finger point.
No, we can finger point.
And the fingers are all pointing right at Karen Bass.
And let's not cast blame. Let's not finger point. Let's not try to take advantage of the situation to exploit and re-victimize the victims. Let's help each other. Let's lift each other up.
Boy, he loves lifting us up and leaning in.
You know, he might be a bodybuilder with all the lifting he does.
Let's lift each other up. Let's take care of one another. California is certainly during this time knocked down because of these horrific, unprecedented LA fires, but we're not knocked out, and we're going to rebuild.
Never heard that one before.
Could be a boxing announcer.
But we're not knocked out, and we're going to rebuild. We're going to.
He gets knocked down, but then he gets up again. You're never going to knock him down.
But we're not knocked out, and we're going to rebuild. We're going to recover, and we're going to heal, and we will do that best if we do it together.
The Attorney General of the state of California.
That was 60 seconds of nothing.
And I bet you anything, after he finished that interview, he and his wife and his aides gave each other high fives, and he thought what he said was so profound.
The only way this person exists is if he's completely oblivious to what a joke he is.
He is a remedial attorney general. Remedial.
We're focused on the work. We are sleeves rolled up, heads down, arms extended in partnership, arms locked together to collaborate, to deliver.
What did Gavin see in him?
Dong money.
Well, there was that.
Let's go to Dave and Duarte. Dave, hello.
Yes, hello. Let me get you off a speaker. So I know this is going to be a very controversial take, and but you guys seem to kind of be on my page. But what's being referred to as price gouging is essentially the new market value, and new would be capitalized or however you want to put it. But this is the new market value. I wouldn't like it if the government told me how much I could sell my car for. I wouldn't like it, and I wouldn't like it if somebody told me I could rent my house for. If there is a buyer or a renter that wants to purchase my house or rent my house for the price that I'm offering it at, then why should the government step in?
Yeah, I mean, that's the purest libertarian take on this. And if you do rent out a property at a very high rate because of the circumstances that now exist, then my guess is there will be consequences for that. For example, you may only get one contract, and then the person moves on and they find something that's more reasonably priced, or maybe they'll negotiate it down if they like where they're staying. Maybe people will see that and think that that's a bad look. There's certainly that. There's certainly social pressure to not do something like that. But yeah, I mean, there's
already rules in place to say you can't jack up your current tenant's rent. But in a case where there is no tenant and you want to rent your property, who's to say? I mean, who's to say what that property value is worth? This is the new normal based on market conditions. That's all.
Well, and like I said, the tricky part is going to be for people who listed it after the fire started. Because before the fire started, and I'm not an attorney, so I'm the wrong person to ask, but based on the explanation the Attorney General gave, when there's a state of emergency, if you have an advertised rate for a property and you change it by more than 10%, you're in violation of that particular law. But
I guess the solution to that would be, John, is to just withhold your property until the state of emergency is lifted and then list your property for whatever the heck you want to list it for.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be people that do that. But if you didn't have it listed and you list it now and potential buyers or potential renters think that it's high, my guess is what will happen is they will weaponize that against you as a negotiation technique.
Sure. Well, thank you for letting me get my 2 cents off my chest. Great show, guys.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Allison in Valley Glen. Allison, hello.
Hi, thank you so much for bringing this up. I have a friend who has a house in Venice. He has it on the MLS for a certain price, but he's been getting phone calls on it with people offering to pay 4 times the amount of the rent that he's asking. I think, and I agree with the caller before me, that if he decides that he wants to take advantage of that, there's no record showing on the MLS that he has raised his price. I consider price gouging as if we are short of water bottles and the local 7-Eleven decides to sell a $1.79 water bottle for $10, that to me is price gouging. But in a fair market, as the previous caller stated, and he kind of blew the wind out of my fire, no pun intended, with that we have the right as people that own property to sell it for the going rate. This is the new normal. Just as when Joe Biden took our energy prices away, our gas prices went up incrementally. I don't see any lawsuits against the state of California for putting another 50 cents a gallon to support the train to nowhere or whatever the hell they're doing with the money that they haven't done to build reservoirs. I mean, if you want to have a lawsuit, I think we should sue the state of California for not building the reservoirs that we need, for emptying out a reservoir a year ago that hasn't even had a contractor come to look at it. There's an old film called Let Malibu Burn that came out in 1960. It's a Marxist book talking about how the Californians wanted to destroy the elite areas of Malibu and California and Bel Air at the time because they wanted equity even then. I think we have to look deeper into the way this fire was handled than just some idiot mayor going to Ghana for a cocktail party. She left knowing what she was leaving behind, and she didn't care. That's what we should be concerned about. I'm sad for people. I've lost 4 friends who have homes that were burned down. I feel bad for them every time they go on to a house listing and they lose that listing. But we have $600,000 condos downtown that are being given to meth addicts. Why don't we open up the buildings that are for the meth addicts and give them to the fire victims and charge them Section 8 housing prices? I mean, I think this whole thing, California needs to totally change. The entire government is corrupt, and the way it's been run is corrupt. And Mike Rowe on his show lately, about 2 days ago, said that we have to stop voting by D and R. We need to read exactly what the policies are behind the candidates, because Californians voted for this. And if these people have to get bitten in the you-know-what for voting for this, then maybe they'll learn their lesson next time they go to the ballot box. And
let me ask you this. Let me walk you through this, because I think that you're on to something here. Let's talk about price gouging. if you live in Pacific Palisades and your home just burned down and you have to go through the process of rebuilding your home, that includes going to building and safety, that includes going to the Coastal Commission, and they're going to require that you get a gazillion different permits. The price on those permits,
by the way.
The price on those permits is astronomical. And I would imagine it is infinitely more expensive than the price of those permits when those homes were built. And I bet you that many of those permits didn't even exist when those homes were built. The increase in the cost of those permits to that homeowner is going to be far more than 10%. My guess is it's going to increase exponentially. So if there's anyone that's out there that's price gouging right now that we can verify, it would be these entities that are going to be charging them for the permits.
Correct. And in addition, they lose their Prop 13. They now pay property taxes on the value of the new house.
Well, I'll tell you, they're going to find all kinds of ways to re-victimize these people. These people who just had their homes burned down, and they're trying to put their lives back together. They're going to end up fighting with the city. They're going to end up fighting with the Coastal Commission. They're going to end up fighting with their insurance company. It's going to be nonstop fighting for years.
Absolutely. My heart goes out to all the victims. I mean, nobody deserved the way the city reacted to this fire. It's really it's a tragedy. And you know what? It's not unprecedented. They have to stop using that word. It is a precedent that every winter and fall we get Santa Ana winds. This has been going on for centuries, and it has nothing. I'm sorry to all the climate change people, but this has climate change. And we have known that this is part of living in California. The Santa Ana winds have been going on for hundreds of years, if not centuries, but documented at least a few hundred years back. And anybody that builds in the hills knew that they should have brush clearance. They should have put sprinklers in. I'm sorry, you build a wooden house on top of a hillside with chaparral all around, you're asking for trouble. And the insurance companies would go bankrupt trying to pay all these claims. So as a business, they looked at their risk and said, we can't afford, if there's a fire, to pay all the claims that could happen. So these people would have been SOL anyway with claims with State Farm. State Farm could not afford to pay $150 billion in claims.
All right. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Steven writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and says, with all the lifting up, leaning in, and arms around me, I feel like Rob Bonta is sexually harassing me.
That is a little Michael Jackson-esque, isn't it?
Every type of leadership is about meeting the moment and rising to the occasion, and this is what's required. And so we're stepping up and getting it done.
And Randy, if you want to go back and listen to a previous episode where Rob Bonta made an appearance, that's easy to do.
Go to KABC.com, click on podcast.
In Topanga.
Go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes.
To go big and to go strong.
Do a Google on the YouTube or get that handy-dandy KABC app. Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store. It is the easiest way to listen live to this radio station and download all the podcasts, including ones where Rob Bonta sounds like a robot.
This is the guidance.
Okay, I just got a text message from a friend who did some research on property values and Proposition 13 here in California. What this person had to say is that it's his understanding that rebuilds are still Prop 13 covered at the original value and not reassessed at the new or current value. I think the caller said the opposite. This was the research that friend of the show just did.
Well, and Gavin Newsom in interviews, because he did a whole bunch in the last week, he has claimed that he is going to make sure that people are assessed at their original value. Now, we will make sure we hold him to that, but he has made that promise.
All right. Right now, we're taking your calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Let's begin with Eric in San Pedro. Eric, hello.
How you guys doing? Hey, it's kind of funny. I heard Bonta do a graduation speech. My wife graduated from UCLA Law a couple years ago, and he gets up there. I had no idea who he was. And he starts going on, and he's telling his life story about how downtrodden things were. And then he went into the whole deal of, all of you law students should give back to the community. You should do pro bono, where it was absolutely horrendous. It was, you would have loved it. And it was so funny. Like a month later, we went to a high school graduation, and the speeches by these high school kids were so much better. It was really sad. And on a second note, my stepmother's house burned down in the Santa Rosa fires. Was it 7 years ago? I think it was. And it was, the fire is one thing, and that's devastating. I mean, you have no idea how much you lose. The worst, though, is the after effects of trying to rebuild. She just sold the property to a developer who bought 3 lots, but the state just drags you through the mud. Literally, you have to recertify the soil and, all kinds of crazy stuff to build a house. It's very, very difficult.
Well, I read somewhere, and I don't know if you have it in front of you, Randy, but the fake doctor is now getting involved where she says she wants to go assess all of these properties before people can go back to their homes. Did you see that?
Yes, the LA County Public Health Department has prohibited the removal of fire debris until Barbara Ferrer inspects it.
Next slide.
And she's real busy, so that might take a while.
I thought we were cutting through the red tape here.
It's very difficult. You have to go through, and you kind of understand a bit of it. All the stuff that melts, that literally melts, goes into the soil. So yeah, this is California. You're gonna have to dig up and airlift the whole hunk of land out for each house. It's going to be ugly.
Well, and she has taken a particular interest in this because of the global warming angle. She's been using green technology for some time because it does not take oil to operate her broom that she flies around on.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you for the call, sir.
Can't help yourself.
I can't. Let's go to Robert in San Pedro. Robert, hello.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Good.
All right. Well, some time ago I called and said we got to recall Karen Bass. I think Randy had mentioned that she's probably a little too insulated. Well, that insulation is burned down. And Gavin Newsom, well, his time has come to an end. Not too early, and we should recall that dingbat too. Gentlemen, enjoy your day.
Thank you for the call. Now, a lot of people are emailing me saying I should be giving out the information as to how to recall these two from office. Here is my response to that. I need to do more reading based on the process of what a recall election would look like, particularly for Karen Bass. Because if we recall her from office and then the city council gets to appoint her successor, we're not going to get Rick Caruso. We're not going to get Tracy Park. We're not going to get someone who's better than Karen Bass. In fact, we might get someone who's worse. And we might get someone who's much, much worse. It may be the best play to just keep your powder dry, wait until the next regularly scheduled election, and that way the people get to choose the replacement and not the Los Angeles City Council. Then you have a shot at electing a Rick Caruso or a Tracy Park. But there's no way the council would ever appoint someone like that as mayor.
No, and they have more votes than I'm comfortable with of putting someone like Ulysses in charge of the city.
Quite frankly.
Let's go to Jamie in San Diego. Jamie, hello.
That's a really good point you guys just made. I was just going to add to some of the Rob Bonta. I think with the collection that Randy has on the board, there could be a replacement to the Macarena. I'm thinking I'm just going to do it right now. It's arm sleeve, so sleeves rolled up, arms out and extended, arms locked, lifting things up and then leaning in.
That's fantastic.
Got any more, Randy?
We're focused on the work. We are sleeves rolled up, heads down,
arms extended in partnership, arms locked together to collaborate, to deliver.
Hey, Macarena.
I think I know what you're going to be doing during the next news break. Thank you for the call.
Johnny, I hate to do this, but this is really, 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 really important. We have breaking news. Are you sitting?
I'm sitting.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
According to the San Francisco Chronicle, just breaking right now, former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao has been criminally indicted by a federal grand jury following the FBI corruption investigation. The formal indictment will be announced on Friday, a source told the Chronicle.
Is our little Shangy going to be going to the pokey?
Shangy's back in the news.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you imagine what kind of circus that trial is going to be?
Former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao has been criminally indicted by a federal grand jury following an FBI corruption investigation. Federal officials said Thursday they plan to announce the results of a major law enforcement action on Friday morning. The spokespeople declined to comment, but the source, who remains anonymous, says the officials will announce the indictment of Tao, who was recalled from office. Oh, my goodness. And this also connects to who we're talking about this hour, because, John, who is also connected to that corruption investigation?
Well, you've got the Dongs.
And who are they connected to?
Rob Bonta.
To go big and to go strong.
You realize this trial is going to be the last episode of Seinfeld version of this program. We might have to go up there for the trial.
Oh, we're staying up there. I'm not staying in Oakland, but we'll stay in San Francisco, and we'll take the BART to get to the courthouse.
I might have to bring Nancy Grace with us.
Oh, my goodness. I cannot believe this.
Did I ever tell you about the time that she called me and wanted me to go to Arsenio Hall with her?
Oh, really?
And I did. She was a guest on Arsenio Hall. So now, from my point of view, she owes me one. So if we go up there for the Sheng Tao trial, I'm going to call her up and tell her that I want her to come with us.
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
Shangy's going to get indicted, and I guarantee Bonta's going to get burned from this.
Oh, they're all going to get burned from this.
There is a lot of people connected to that family that has been spending a whole lot of ill-begotten money to get fancy contracts. And Bonta has been playing that game ever since he was a member of the assembly.
They're all addicted to the Dong Cash. All right, breaking news. Former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao indicted by the feds, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. Well, after a steady diet of bad news, we finally got something good.
Sheng Tao is getting indicted.
She is not going to do well in prison.
Oakland Bees!
That much I can tell you. All right, we're taking your calls at 800-222-5222. Let's begin with Ben in Beverly Hills. Ben, hello.
Hey, I'm going to take us back to 2008. This is a review on how our attorney generals just totally disregard the law, including ballot measures. In 2008, Californians passed Prop 108, and that restricted gay marriage. And the first thing Kamala Harris did, another Democratic attorney general, was perform a gay marriage in defiance of her sworn pledge to defend the Constitution. Now we have the Rob Bonta telling
Ben, get out of the
people
way. The fire truck's coming right at you.
The formula in the law, which is no increases over 10%. He says you don't have to be using a formula. Just use your gut, and if it looks like it's out of whack, report it as a violation, as a crime. This is actually inviting mass harassment of landlords, where people are going to be driving around, and if rent is too high, they're going to say that seems out of whack. What's that going to do? It's going to cause false reporting. We're going to see the rise of the tenant Karen, and that's going to increase rental cost additionally because legal costs are folded into the cost of renting. So he's actually acting like some kind of communist instigator to divide our state, tenants against landlords. The guy is a criminal, and he's encouraging law-breaking, false reporting. And I'm wondering, isn't that a violation of his oath of office? Maybe we should be talking about prosecuting him because he's encouraging people to break the law. Yeah, we heard you, Rob Bonta, and now we'd like you to retire. That's my position. I'm voting red. I'm a Democrat for life, but I'm never going to vote Democrat again. This just total bullying of our Constitution, of landlords, people who invest in our state, who are holding our state together. You're going to go after them? Not on my watch. As a voter, I'm going to use my vote as a weapon against this kind of insanity.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Steve in Laguna Woods. Steve, hello.
Hey, John and Randy. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You guys broke that story. I can't. She interviewed on your show there. You posted an interview where she says, "I don't know why the FBI showed up at my front door." I remember that. But
there was actually a better one that we decided not to use out of good taste, where she said, "I'm not going down like that."
I can tell you guys are related, but the purpose of my call is to say that I raised my family on Upper Chautauqua Boulevard in the Pacific Palisades during the 80s and 90s, and I'm by no means a wealthy guy. We're in a teardown that we bought from my mother-in-law's estate, and it was a great place to live, just a few blocks up from Billy Crystal's house. They're both in embers now, and our place was, a 180-degree ocean view from Point Dume all the way down to PV. But my point is, one of the things you were mentioning was the cost to rebuild. And, the Palisades looks like Dresden after the firebombing in World War II. But in the 80s, when we were looking at remodeling, the contractors had everybody by the short hairs. So if you could get the permits, and once you were down to do that and find a contractor at that time in the mid-'80s, you were looking at almost $500 per square foot to build out. So like a 4,000 square foot house is $2 million cash. And you can bet it was just, I think, worthy of mentioning that that's the situation now if you can get past the permitting process. And I grew up in Point Dume. Adam Carolla lives out there now, and I think he's right, too. I think this is the perfect storm for all that lineup of houses along PCH that got burned to the ground. Carolla said, you think that the California Coastal Commission is going to grant permits to rebuild that? Think again. So I think those are both. Carolla is valid on that, and I think that I'm sad about what happened in the Palisades, but it's going to look like Dresden for years.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it. And, Randy, just to repeat the breaking news, Sheng Tao, the former mayor of Oakland, has been indicted.
The official indictment is going to come on Friday. This is related to her getting raided by the FBI in connection with her association with the Dong family that helped her get elected illegally in exchange for some very lucrative contracts. We also know that family has a lot of ties to Rob Bonta. They've given more money to Rob and Mia Bonta than anybody else in the state of California. Shangy, any comment?
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
Someone just emailed, Shangy's going to sing like a canary.
She might.
That would be great.
She's going to break up with that abusive boyfriend anyway. Why not do it now? Didn't she claim that she was nude when that raid happened, too?
Yes. That the FBI made her stand there and they had to check her bra to make sure that she wasn't trying to sneak anything out of the house.
Now, was it a bra that she was wearing or a bra that she threw on that they thought might have a weapon in it?
She naked. She has to dress. FBI has to check the clothes she's putting on to make sure she's not sneaking out documents.
I see. That was quite a morning, too.